Charlie Dimmock is one of Britain's best-loved gardeners, known for her colourful planting and herbaceous borders. But the Rich brothers are the new trendsetters. With multiple wins in the Best Village category, they're known for the dramatic outdoor spaces and fresh, clean lines. Now these two generations of gardeners go head-to-head in this week's Garden Rescue. Evie has just moved into her first home. She's worked hard to get the inside just the way she wants it, but doesn't know where to start with her boring garden.
Well, Evie, tell us about your garden. What would you want from a garden?
Well, I really like bright colours, and but I do have a dog, so she has to have a lot of lawn.
She has a dog, right? Okay. So you need garden space.
Yeah.
Right. And what about colour?
I really like the colours to be bright. And
Yeah.
like lots of pinks and reds.
Okay. We can do that, can we, boys?
Oh yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's get colouring. All right, Evie, there's my design. I've made some lovely planting down that side with some lovely patio area just for you to relax in the evening time. Over here, we're thinking of maybe having a tree because that's a focal point. And then over here, more planting to get some of the colours. We're keeping a large area of grass for your dog. Hope you like it.
Okay, so we've gone for a very structural look, lots of little box hedging around the side and a lovely circular paved area with a big water feature in the middle. Not sure if your dog likes water, but let's hope. Lots of gravel around here for a very sort of Japanese ornamental look.
What are you going to decide, Evie?
It's been a really difficult decision, but I have decided to pick Charlie's.
Yes! Oh, yeah! Some of these plants are just lovely. This is like Campariatati Kula Pichico plant, otherwise known as the lesser spotted purple plant. Over here, oh gracious, it's the Tarialata plant, and some people know it as lavender, but I love it. Oh, the smell, it's gorgeous. Really, I'm just making this border really, really lovely with lots of really nice plants.
This is going to be a lovely seating area for Evie to enjoy her morning coffee.
This here is a lovely old pallet that we've reclaimed from the bonfires, and the boys have just given it a lick of paint, and we've added some lovely flowers to it. Really simple idea, very effective.
That will finish off our patio area.
We got these plants at our local nursery, Thompson's Nurseries. Gorgeous, and will flower throughout the summer.
I think here would be great for the cherry tree. You have some lovely blooms in the spring, maybe a bit of fruit too.
All right, Evie. It's the moment of truth. You can open your eyes.
It's amazing!
Oh, what do you think?
It's so nice.
Oh, we've made you a lovely patio area over here. Just, you know, to eat in the evenings. And then a lovely morning spot where you can have your coffee.
Oh, that's lovely.
We've got some trees in the back of the garden just to raise up your eye line. Over here we've a reclaimed pallet where we've filled with some lovely plants. Really easy kept.
They look lovely.
Oh, I'm really glad you like it. Another successful garden rescue. Hello everybody. Evie and I love to watch Garden Rescue. We watch it on a Friday night when the boys are at BB. And Garden Rescue is always about a garden that is really, really messy or really, really boring. And the Garden Rescue team come in and make it gorgeous and beautiful and interesting. It's a fun show. Today I am going to tell you about the ultimate garden rescue, the best garden rescue ever. And I'm going to tell you about 3 gardens that we read about in the Bible. And the first garden is called the Garden of Eden. And that was the garden where everything got ruined. But it didn't start out like that. The Garden of Eden was beautiful. It was perfect. God had made the Garden of Eden for the first man, Adam, and the first woman, Eve, to enjoy. And he made it absolutely beautiful with gorgeous plants and gorgeous trees. And he made it for Adam and Eve to enjoy. But the most perfect, beautiful thing about that garden was Adam and Eve's perfect, beautiful relationship, friendship with God. And that was the loveliest part of the garden. And that was the most beautiful thing that Adam and Eve enjoyed. And God had said to Adam and Eve, all of this garden is for you to enjoy, but I don't want you to eat from one tree because that wouldn't be good for you. And that was fine until one day the devil, who was pretending to be a snake, came up and said to Eve, "Did God really say that? Maybe you would really enjoy eating fruit from that tree. Look at it, it looks delicious." And Eve wondered for the first time, maybe God's plans aren't best for me. Maybe he's ruining my fun. That tree's fruit does look delicious. And she took some and she ate it. And that was the first sin. And that's how sin is with all of us. That we think about God's rules and then we think maybe they're ruining our fun. And we think about what God wants us to do, and then we think about, well, I want to do such and such. And we decide to follow what we want and what we think, rather than what God wants and what God thinks. Yet we know that God's plans are always perfect. God's plans are always the best for us. And Adam and Eve soon found that out. Because as soon as sin came into their world, death came into their world, sadness came into their world, sickness, nettles started to grow in the garden, there were thorns, there were thistles, and all of a sudden everything was wrecked and ruined. And Adam and Eve were very sad, and God was very sad too. Because whenever we sin, there is always a consequence, and there is always a price to be paid. If I was to come to your house, and whenever I was there, maybe I was messing about or throwing a ball, I might break a lamp. And the lamp would be broken on the floor, and I would be left with 2 options. I would have to say, "I'm really, really sorry. I broke that lamp. I'll go and buy you another one." Or I would have to wait for you to say, "Don't worry, Tessa, about the lamp. I'll go and replace that lamp myself." But either way, there's a price to be paid for that lamp if it's to be replaced. And there's a price to be paid whenever Adam and Eve broke that perfect friendship between them and God. And there's a price to be paid when we break our friendship with God through sin too. But God said to Adam and Eve, I promise to send you somebody to rescue you. I promise to send you someone who will pay the price for your sin. And of course, God always keeps his promises. And many years later, he sent his son, Jesus. And Jesus came. And Jesus lived a perfect life. And Jesus went on to die, to pay the price for our sin. Which takes us to the second garden in today's story. And that's the Garden of Gethsemane. And the Garden of Gethsemane is a very, very sad garden. Because it was there that Jesus went to pray to God the Father before he went to the cross to die for me and for you. And it was the Garden of Gethsemane that Jesus said, God, please, is there a different way that men and women and boys and girls can be forgiven? Obviously, Jesus was facing death, and that is scary. But I think the worst thing that Jesus was fearing as he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane was that his perfect friendship with God the Father would be broken. Because when Jesus took my sin upon him, God the Father could not look at Jesus anymore. Because my sin and your sin is so terrible and is so awful that perfect God cannot look on such awful sin. And when Jesus took my sin, God couldn't look at him. And that perfect friendship between God the Father and God the Son was for that time broken. And I think in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus was just, I can't face that. That is the most awful, heartbreaking thing in the world. But Jesus went, and Jesus died on the cross. And he paid the price for my sin and for your sin. Which leads us to the third garden. And that is the garden tomb. And that is the most wonderful, joyful garden ever. Because Jesus was buried in a tomb belonging to a man called Joseph. And this was a beautiful garden, and Jesus was buried there. And Jesus' friends, a few days after he died, went to cry together at the tomb where he was buried. But when they arrived, the stone was rolled away and the tomb was empty. They were really, really confused. But Jesus had risen. Jesus had beaten death. Jesus had beaten sin. Jesus was victorious. He had won. The best news ever, the greatest rescue ever, because when Jesus rose, it means that sin and death and sadness can be beaten in my life too. The greatest rescue that you and I could ever imagine. And because Jesus rose to new life, I can have new life too. And the way we accept that wonderful gift that Jesus made possible is simply to come to him and say, Jesus, I am so sorry. I am sorry for all the wrong things that I have done. I know that you paid the price for me. Please be number one in charge of my life forever. the greatest garden rescue ever.